In this demo, we'll explore how ServiceNow's Business Continuity Management, BCM, and the Compliance Workspace support NERC CIP-009, which mandates the establishment and testing of recovery plans for BES assets. What I have opened here is the Business Continuity Workspace, and what this allows you to do is monitor and create crisis events, business impact analysis, plans, and exercises. What we are going to do first is walk through a business impact analysis and how you are able to track applications. So the first thing we're going to do is do a create BIA. We're going to name our BIA. In this case, we know that we are going to be assessing the Workday application. You will then select your business impact analysis template. These can be configured for any primary element you would like assessed. We are then going to select our BES asset. In this case, we know it's going to be Workday. We will then assign a BCM lead as well. You can also relate to a business unit or department. We know that this relates to the payroll department. The BIA owner is auto-populated based on the person that creates the BIA. And then we're going to go ahead and save. Once you save, it creates the record, and in this first tab, you'll get an overview. You can see the different states that BIAs go through. We'll go ahead and look at the details. More details do pop up. This is going to be relating to the recovery tier, the adjusted RTO if the RTO from the assessments that you fill out doesn't align correctly. You can also adjust your RPO. You have confidentiality, integrity, and availability as well. Now, when taking NERC CIP-009 into account, we can think about the roles and responsibilities when using a BIA. You're going to have your BIA owner, who is going to be the owner of the BIA, who will be doing approving if you so choose. You have your BCM lead, who can also make edits to this document. You will have your approvers of the BIA. You will have contributors if you would like to add any contributors. You can have program managers and any other persons that you would like to assess this BIA. So once your BIA is created and in the draft state, to move it through the process to get it ready to have an RTO and or an RPO, you're going to go to your assessments tab, and you're going to fill out your recovery point assessment, your recovery time objective assessment, and your dependency assessments. These assessments can be configured based on your organization's needs. So we'll open this assessment, and you can see these basic questions that pop up. So in this case, we're looking at a recovery point objective. So at what point should we be recovering? And then this says, what is the value of data? So now we can select that the value of the data is low, medium, or high. In this case, Workday is a high BES asset. After filling out your data value, we can now look at data change frequency. So in this case with Workday, we know that the data change frequency is medium. Navigating back to the other assessment, we can now look at a recovery time objective assessment. Upon opening this, there will be a number of questions asking about the disruption duration. Now, all these questions do need to be filled out, and you can see that this one down here is also intolerable. So I will fill this out with the proper responses. Okay. Now that we've filled out these assessments, I will make mention that this intolerable impact does relate to the calculation that it does for your recovery time objective. There are different scoring metrics that occur behind the scenes to calculate the fastest recovery time objective that the organization needs to have for your chosen application. In this case, when we're looking at our Workday application, it needs to be immediately recovered. Our last is our dependency assessment. Now, what this does, allows us to relate any other BES assets occurring or in a relationship with our original Workday application. In this case, there are no direct relationships to Workday. However, we know that Workday does run on a server, so we can add in a server. And so this pulls up all of your hardware in your system, and you can search for it by using the numbers, or you can do the filter at the top if you know the name. In this case, we're going to use this AS400. Now, the reason I was not able to do the update dependencies button up here is that the relationship doesn't exist in ServiceNow. The relationship has not been brought into ServiceNow yet. So once that is created, we know that there are no other data centers and or vendors relying on this, so we can click complete. What that now allows us to do is that once our assessments are complete, we can submit for review. Now the submit for review is a staging area, and what you're able to do with that is review with the BIA owner if you're the BCM lead filling this out, or vice versa, you are the BIA owner and you would like your BCM lead to be in the loop. Once it passes the in review state, you can now submit for approval. Once you get to the pending approval step, approval levels will be created. And what that does is that allows you to have specified approvers in the approval configurator for BIAs. In this case, we just have BCM admins. And what we're going to do is we're going to go navigate to approvals. I am an admin, so I can manually move them along. However, when you have a user such as Doug or Andrew, when they navigate to the Business Continuity Management workspace under My Tasks, they will be able to see that Workday is needing to be approved, which then they can navigate to the BIA and click approve on their end. So I would just approve it here. That now moves us to approved. So with your BIA created, you can now meet the requirements of the BES assets, each step, role, and recovery metric that you need to put in place to monitor and track an application or your BES asset. Once you have a number of BIAs created or just one, what you can do is you can navigate back to the home, and now we can look at the recovery plans. Now, your recovery plans are a little bit more involved in terms of what needs to be laid out. I am now going to create a BCP. I'm going to call this our Workday application, since we would just be focusing on our plan for Workday. You can also name this such as HR continuity plan. You can name this your HR recovery plan. Depending on the number of applications you would like, you can name this accordingly. In this case, we know we're just going to be creating a Workday recovery plan. So I'll name that Workday recovery plan. Now the chosen template is going to be a application DR plan. We know that this is going to be a recovery plan. I am the plan owner since I am the one making this. Again, I can relate this to the specific department that I would need. I can put in another BCM lead, any description in a business unit if needed. Similarly to a BIA, once you save the record, it brings you to this overview tab where you can see the different states. Now again, talking about the roles and responsibilities, we can go into details and we can see that I am the plan owner. We also have the BCM lead, just as before. We also have contributors, so you can insert any number of people you would like into these fields. And what that allows you to do is that it allows you to have multiple creators and or workers on the recovery plan. So what the next step of the recovery plan is to do is we want to add in our scope of this recovery plan. We know that we're going to have a BES asset for an application. So we can click that add primary scope. And we know that we will be looking at Workday. So we can add in Workday. And under that, you can actually see the different fields that get populated. Recovery time objective, as before, is immediately. Recovery point is immediately. And you also have a direct link to the BIA we just filled out in here. You can add any number of BES asset types into here. And you can add any number of BES assets in here. You have the Asset Dependencies tab. This allows you to put in more information relating to your BES assets. You have your documentation. This is a great spot to fill in any template documentation you may have for your recovery plans. This can fall in line with CIP-009 greatly in terms of outlining objectives that need to be done for your organization, a checklist that needs to be created, and or any other information that you may have, such as preservation routes, any other triggers as well. You can also add in related plans if you want to associate a plan with another plan to fall in tandem. You can also have recovery teams. So what we know is that Workday goes down, we know we are going to call on our HRIT recovery team. We can now associate a group in here. Any number of groups that you have within your own system. In this case, I'm going to look for our IT team. I will select HR support and I will save and I'll navigate back to our plan. Now we have the recovery team in here. So this recovery team will be responsible for executing the plan if a incident were to occur or a trigger that causes the plan to be activated. You can also configure loss scenarios in here. This will be loss, in this case, loss of data centers, facilities, Windows servers, and vendor disruption. You can have a parent plan as well. So instead of being related to the plan, you can have a tree hierarchy of your plans. The last thing I would like to talk about for recovery plans in this section is recovery tasks. Now, this is where you're going to put in your parts for your CIP-009 requirements. In this case, I am just going to create what a recovery task can look like. So we can pull in a part of NERC CIP-009. So in this case, let's talk about one or more processes for the backup and storage information required to recover BES cyber system functionality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, we know that this is 1.3. I'm going to add in the description for the requirement. Task ID we can associate with that 1.3 as well. Any other, if you would like to tag it, you can configure tags. You can configure a BES asset as well. And any other assignment details you would like. If your assignment for part 1.3 for one or more processes for the backup and storage is different than the recovery team associated, you can do that as well. Navigate back to this. So now we have our recovery task for our plan. Now the next step is once we have all the information we have filled out for the plan that we need, we can now submit for review. Upon submitting for review, similar to a BIA, this will sit in the in review stage, and this is a great time to now test your plan. So what we can do is we can go back to the home section. We can go to exercises. We can do create exercise. And under this, we're going to say this is going to be a test of Workday BCP. This is just an exercise we will be doing. We have our planned start date, any other information you want to fill out in here. Our exercise method will just be a functional method. We'll go ahead and save this. Now, this exercise relates to part 2 when dealing with CIP-009, such as testing the recovery plans every 15 months. So that relates to part 2.1 and 2.2. And now what you'll do in here is under your plans tab, we're going to add our plan that we just made. So we have our Workday recovery plan. We'll add that in. And once that plan is added in, we will be able to add in any emergency notifications. The event tasks that get pulled in are the recovery tasks that were associated with the recovery plan. So in this case, these will be all the tasks you will need to execute. The next step is we're going to start this event, aka we will be triggering the BCP. Once the plan is now work in progress, our exercise is in process. To complete the event and the rest of this exercise, the event tasks must be closed. So to do that, you will have the correct personas navigate to this event, navigate to their event tasks, open up their related event task. They will also be able to access this directly through their tasks on the left side of the screen. In this case, we are one of the workers for part 1.3, which is the process of backup and storage of information. So we're going to say we are work in progress. In our case, we take a look at any of the processes and storage that we have for Workday. Say that we actually did not back up on time. So what we can do is we will attach our evidence over here on the attachments, and we can add in the evidence that was collected to say that the backup and storage information was not backed up correctly. And so what you can do is you can do closed failed. And we will save that. We will navigate back to our event. A little refresh will bring out closed failed. Navigating back to the details tab, we can now say our results. In our results, you need to fill in an actual end. In the results, it was actually successful with issues. You can also have unsuccessful or successful. In this case, we can assume that other event tasks are created and they executed correctly, but just our task did not go accordingly. Here you will be able to put all the results, such as lessons learned, and your recommended improvements as well. You can also attach evidence in the attachment section. It will take any type of file. Got to save first. And now we can submit for approval. Pending approval. And now we can say that our exercise made it through all the steps, just had some failures. So the next steps upon having failures and upon having your evidence collected, your lessons learned, we can leverage the plan that we made that is still in review since we were reviewing it. So we'll go back to our overall dashboard. We'll go to planning. We'll open up the Workday Recovery Plan. Now we can go back into our recovery tasks. In this case, we will open up the one that we made. And now we can put in any other further information that we need, such as more documentation or anything else that we need. Once we make proper adjustments and we can attach the evidence for said proper adjustments, we can run through an exercise again. Upon completing that, everything was successful. We can now do submit for approval for our plan. Similar to a business impact assessment, you will have approval levels and approvals. Similarly, any of these individuals will have approvals on their task board. I will just manually push it through to be approved. I go ahead and save their approval. In this case, I do believe everybody is needed for approval. So let me go ahead and ensure that everybody approves it. This aligns with your roles and responsibilities for your approvals according to CIP-009. Now our recovery plan is approved. Now with this recovery plan, you can also navigate back to details. And something important to make mention is that this expires 12 months from when it was created. Now, this is the out-of-the-box design. In the case of CIP-009, it is every 15 months. So this will need to be changed according to your organizational needs. Now, when dealing with CIP-009, you also have parts 3, which is 3.1 and 3.2, which is no later than 90 calendar days after completion of recovery plan or test or actual recovery. So this is where you can put in your lessons learned in your recovery plan. And something also to make mention in recovery plans and BIAs and exercises, any changes you made will have notifications go out to individuals. If a notification is not out of the box, notifications can be created to the specified individuals in any fields relating to the form and or users and groups that need to be made aware of recovery plans. Now, one step further for CIP-009, instead of putting all of your organizational evidence inside your recovery plan, you can actually leverage the IRM module and the Compliance Workspace. So in this case, we were operating out of the Business Continuity Workspace. We can actually navigate to the Compliance Workspace, and this is where you can be in compliance with all of the parts of CIP-009, such as roles and responsibilities, the evidence for the process backups and storage information backups found in parts 1.3, and then the verification of those in 1.4. And you can also do data preservation. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to our list of authority documents. We're going to open our NERC authority document, In this case, we have NERC CIP-009 as a citation. We will open up 1.3. Now we have our part 1.3, and what we can do is we will add our GRC attestation. Now what this does is this can ensure that a survey goes out to the proper respondents so they are able to provide evidence to part 1.3 for the preservation of storage and backups. So what we can do is in our control objective, in this case, say we have Workday operating on Windows servers. So our entity type is going to be Windows servers. Next, we can navigate to our controls. Now, this control does say 83. Workday is not operating on all 83, but we can also think about this in terms of backups existing, or Workday does have installed files on these. So what we can do is under our controls, we can click into a control. This control is looking at our entity. And then now we want to attest that Workday is backed up on this cluster. So we can click the attest button. In this case, I am the owner of this control, so I can navigate to my tasks. I can now see that we have governance, risk, and compliance attestation for that cluster, ensuring that Workday has backups and storage on there in case of an outage or in case of a trigger to cause our recovery plan to be activated. I can now take the assessment. We can say, is the control implemented? Is our backups and storage information implemented? I can say yes. I can then attach evidence. In this case, I will just attach a test file. Explain, I have verified that the BES asset has the correct backups and storage information in case of Workday outage. I can then submit that. Our assessment is now completed, so we will navigate back to that control. Which will just go the same way we did before. We will refresh our controls. We will then find the control we just made. In this case, our status is now compliant. So now we have all the details relating to this attestation. Any issues we have also may have found relating to the attestation. So these can be including of our backup was created, but it's 12 months old, so we need a new backup. The next thing is in this compliance workspace, how this can relate to CIP-009 is under the compliance section, it talks about the enforcement authority. So this compliance workspace will allow you to stay in regulations with the enforcement authority. We also have evidence retention. So all of your evidence can be tracked inside ServiceNow's compliance workspace and the business continuity management workspace for all calendar years as long as you have ServiceNow, as well as when we look at part 1.3 of the compliance monitoring process, there are compliance audits, self-certifications, spot checking, compliance investigations, self-reporting, and complaints. Reporting can be done as well on the compliance workspace and the BCM workspace for all your organizational needs. I will preface, evidence can be wholly brought into BCM. However, when you are able to leverage multiple modules in ServiceNow, the synchronization between the modules allows for an organization to be able to do anything and everything that they need to be able to do for recovery plans, for disaster incidents, to track and monitor your BES assets, and other cyber systems. Another feature, once your BIA has been approved, is the functionality to generate a PDF. Once you generate that PDF, all the work you did for the BIA will be inside that PDF, timestamped with the name of the BIA and all the details that you brought in, such as your recovery time objective. If you have an adjusted RTO value that you would like instead, you can show your recovery tier. It'll show you all the assessment impacts you made, any dependencies that you brought in. For us, we brought in the hardware, AS400. In this case, we do not have any specific RTO or RPO for that hardware, and any other attachments or contributors for this. Similar to a BIA, once your BCP has been approved, you also have the Generate PDF functionality. With your PDF generated for your BCP plan, similarly, you'll see the name of it. It will be date stamped, and it will have all the information you filled out. What's even great about this is based on the scope of the BES assets you put in, it will actually show you if there is a BIA associated with each of those assets. It will also show you asset dependencies based on your business application of Workday. You can see our business owner. It will show you the RTO, RPO, and any other information. You will also have the documentation section in the BCP PDFs. You will have your recovery teams laid out, any loss scenarios and recovery strategy, and all the tasks that were laid out in the BCP as well. Similarly, any contributors and attachments. Now, these PDFs are great for attaching evidence. You can use them to track the history, how the BCP and BIA have evolved over time, and any other information that you would like to use the PDFs for based on your organizational needs. Similarly to BIAs and BCPs, in the case of your event, you have the ability to generate a PDF. Inside this PDF, you will see the name of the event exercise. It will be date stamped as well. You will have all your event details that you filled out. You will have your impacted assets and plans. You'll have your recovery task details, showing you how long it actually took to complete the task, and any other attachments that you would like to add.